Howdy folks, as you can see, it is Black Friday, according to this recording. It is officially time for Christmas. So, as you know, this is something I've never done before, and on this particular channel, I may be shown like just the aftermath of putting together a tree, but I can't remember. It's been so many years we've been doing this, and so what we're going to do is we're going to gather and watch a family flick this time around. And while that film plays, I'm going to finish decorating the tree. So as you can see, we've already got the tree up. This living room isn't very big, and of course you see me sitting in my recliner, but here's the tree. It's not even my height. So so while the film plays, we're going to be starting to decorate this thing. So what film are we going to take a look at? Well, last night, ABC, because of Thanksgiving and all, decided to show something that's family oriented, so they played Mary Poppins, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But tonight, in this particular video, we're going to take a look at a family classic, animated classic from 1987, I believe. Yes, 1987 to be believed. And the thing with this film was that I also believe it was the feature film debut of these characters on the big screen. They had made their appearance on television well back into the 50s. Well, this was the feature film, The Chipmunk Adventure, again from 1987. And it was a full-length animated feature. I'll go into a little bit of trivia because I know a little bit about the making of this, a little bit of trivia about the making of this film, and I'll fill you in on that. So, as we decorate the tree, we're going to take a look at this film. It is not real long. It's only 76 minutes. It was originally released by the Samuel Goldwyn Company from Bagdasarian Productions. It is The Chipmunk Adventure. So strap in and we're off to see the world. So that was The Chipmunk Adventure from 1987. It was, as far as I know, it was the only, at the time, the only big budget feature to have the Chipmunks on the big screen. And of course, the story is, you know, Dave is off going on a business trip, and so the Chipmunks don't want to, or particularly Alvin, he wants to go with Dave and explore the world. Well, he doesn't get to go. However, there's some crooks who are dealing with diamonds, illegal diamonds, and they overhear the Chipmunks and the Chipettes playing a video game called Around the World in 30 Days. And so what if they actually did this in reality? And so they had diamonds that they needed to exchange and get the cash out of. And of course, so they hire the Chipmunks and the Chipettes to go off on this adventure, taking separate routes to do the same exact thing, and whoever completes the mission gets $100,000. Again, this is 1987. I'm sure it would be a lot more, probably $100 million. But so they send them off around the world to exchange one set of dolls for another set of dolls that have the cash. So, well, you know, as you can see, they didn't complete it because they ran into some treacherous activity. Plus, these are criminals that they're dealing with. And so, what does it tell you? Crime doesn't pay. And of course, I, as a kid, always once in a while would rent that movie, and it's one of those movies that kind of fell into, like, it came out on video in like 1989 or something like that, and it was actually Lorimar that put it out on video because Samuel Goldwyn did not have a video distributor, so it was Lorimar that took care of the video distribution. And it was in print for a while. Then it fell out of print until like the mid 90s or so. Then Universal Studios picked it up, and they had the video. They put the video out, and actually they put out all kinds of series of chipmunk adventures out on video. And I think Disney was in there somewhere doing like separate thing, but that was not for the chipmunk adventure. It was for like cartoon shorts or something like that. And there was a big lawsuit between the Bagdasarian Productions and between Bagdasarian Productions and Universal Studios, and so they had to fight for the rights back to that film. And it took for a long time for that film to be put back into rotation again. In like, I think it was 2002 or so, Paramount Pictures puts the Chipmunk Adventure out on DVD. Now, for the longest time, that was the only way that you could see the Chipmunk Adventure until about whenever that Blu-ray came out, like 2015, 2016. It was in the late 2010s when the Bagdasarian company were able to get the rights back to properly remaster the film and put it onto Blu-ray disc, and it was available for a short time. I don't know what it's available on now. I mean, so you're talking something that's almost a decade old with a Blu-ray disc, and so who knows what has become of the Chipmunk Adventure as of now. As far as I know, Bagdasarian Productions owns the rights to the film, and so who knows, maybe it may pop up on a Ultra 4K or a streaming platform somewhere, and so who knows. Now we're going to go on to the next film, but before that I got to show you where we are with the tree. Okay, so I'll move to this side here. We have the lights up and there's a few ornaments on there, so I'll just quickly pan that down. Maybe, but yeah, that's about where we are with the tree. So here's where we are. Still working on getting some ornaments on. The hard part is actually done. The long part is actually just begun. The hard part is actually stringing the lights up, and of course I have I have a few specific ornaments on here that are Hallmark keepsake storytellers, which I don't believe they do anymore. They still do the keepsakes, and they still do the ones that require the electrical power cord. But however, I don't think they do ones like I have. The specific one I have here that ties into a certain Christmas movie. But we'll get on with that later. But right now we're going to go on to our next feature. This one also... Hold on, I'm jumping ahead of myself. But before we go to the next feature, about the Chipmunk Adventure. Like I said, that was in 1987. And what was going on at the time, and this is where it's going to kind of tie into the next feature, is that when the Chipmunk Adventure was in production, there were several animators who were free agents at the time. And these animators were employed by the Walt Disney Company. You guessed it. And so, like several of the key animators were from were from Disney. Now, the Chipmunk Adventure was loosely based, was kind of a spin-off of the Saturday morning cartoon series Alvin and the Chipmunks, which was done by, I believe the animation was done by Film Rollman, who did a ton of cartoons throughout the 80s and 90s, and I think shows like Garfield and Friends and even King of the Hill were among some of the cartoons that they've worked on. But in terms of the Chipmunk Adventure movie, they were able to use that team, but also they need some key animators, and so because you're talking a motion picture, not a Saturday morning cartoon, because they had that in production, and as well as they were making this movie, and so they hired Disney animators who were currently on leave due to the fact that they were struggling at the time and trying to rebuild things, and this was post the Black Cauldron. Now, leading into this next feature, this was also based on a Saturday morning cartoon. The next feature we're going to take a look at, it's from Walt Disney Pictures in 1990, taken from a popular Saturday morning cartoon series that they had going on, called DuckTales. What am I talking about? It is DuckTales DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, to be precise. So this one runs about the same length of time. It's, again, Scrooge McDuck in a kind of an extended episode, but a deep episode of DuckTales. So that's as far as I know, this was never played on television unless it was in syndication. It was never, like a lot of times they'll take movies like this and split it up into episodes or whatever. But in this case, no, it was a theatrical motion picture. If you saw it on television, it probably aired on the Disney Channel or a syndicated Sunday matinee or something like that. But yeah, here is from 1990, DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. Okay, so that was DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. Came out in 1990, was not a big box office success that Disney had hoped. Matter of fact, this was kind of this was the movie to launch Disney's animation studio in France that would help them with their kind of streamline their whole animation projects that they had, that they could do their own movies, they could do whatever they need, maybe some television production, but also, of course, Disney has, at the time, had studios all over the world, and this was a part of their Movie Tunes studio, which was, again, to help streamline, they were to help work on the main animated features and plus produce some of their own features. And DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, was the first one. Some of the other films that came out of that studio would be a Goofy movie, Tarzan. Some of the work that was done for Tarzan was done there, but then also the studio mostly was mostly utilized in creating the direct-to-video sequels that would come later in the 90s, early 2000s, and so that was, that was kind of going on too, like, like Cinderella 2, Brother Bear 2, the Little Mermaid 2, all those Bambi 2, those movies that went straight to video. That would be that would be this animation studio that would eventually worked on that. But anymore, they've pretty much closed down that studio, because you don't see too many of these. And of course, the attention now has been to, when you have multiple animation studios, including Pixar and Industrial Light and Magic. I would throw them in there too because they've worked on like the Transformers and stuff like that. As well as doing visual effects. But then you have Pixar, you have just Walt Disney Feature Animation being worked on now. So but at the time, this was 2D hand-drawn animation, and so this being a popular Saturday morning cartoon, they thought, well, let's bring the Scrooge McDuck to the big screen, and which was actually it was not the first time that Scrooge McDuck had appeared on the big screen, But as you may get into during the holiday season, Scrooge McDuck first appeared in 1983 as a part of Mickey's Christmas Carol. And matter of fact, they got a little bit of criticism because they called it Mickey's Christmas Carol, but you didn't have Mickey play Scrooge. And so... but Mickey's not a greedy character, so you need to come up with a new character to somewhat, and Scrooge McDuck ended up being he is greedy, but he has a heart. He does have a heart of gold somewhat, and so with DuckTales the movie, it was not a box office success. I'm not quite sure what else came out at that time, but it was. I think it had some competition at the time, so I'm thinking it was probably something like Dick Tracy or something like whatever came out in 1990 that Disney had also had other successes with. As a matter of fact, this is this was the first thing I ever got from Disney Movie Rewards or Disney Movie Insiders. Even that's closed down now. It closed down, I forget when, but Disney was, they closed down the Disney Movie Club, and then they closed down Disney Movie Insiders, and so this was a part of Disney's Movie Club. That was the way you could get this for the longest time. Then finally, I forget when it was, I think it was around 2011, 2012, they actually decided to put this in print and on DVD and sell it in stores. But for the longest time, this was the only way that you could get that. I don't think it's in print anymore. However, Disney Plus, you have access to most of these movies. So, and that was the thing when they closed Disney Movie Club. They said make sure you have a subscription to Disney Plus because all these titles are going there. We are no longer worried about disc manufacturing. Now, for newer movies, Disney is using Sony Home Entertainment to distribute their movies onto disc, which is kind of sad, really. It's they're still putting the movies out on disc, but they're going through other distributors, other studios to do it. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a disc-based person like me, that's not good. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, or you say, well, yeah, they're still putting the movies out on DVD or Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K. For how long? Because the studios don't like talking to other studios to put their product out. They don't like that. So it'll probably go within a year. Then they'll say, well, we're going to go 100% digital. So, but in the meantime, but this is what I've got, and of course, you got the good old Disney Plus that I know this is on. So, if you have, dude, check it out. I mean, yeah. So, well, the story here with Treasure of the Lost Lamp. The story actually kind of foreshadows what Disney was going to do with Aladdin. The story in this is very, very similar to Aladdin. So the story is that Scrooge McDuck is he's in the pursuit of looking for the treasure of Kali Baba and his 40 thieves. Not Alibaba, it's Kali Baba. Kali Baba and his 40 thieves. And so, going through different caves and whatnot, they discover the temple, and they find this cavern where it's at, and they find the treasure, and buried in the treasure is this lamp. This is old rickety lamp. But there is a villain in this. There is a villain in this story. Like traditional DuckTales format, you had the Beagle Boys, and you had several other characters that were villains in the show. Well, none of them appear in this. This has an original villain, that being Murloc. Yeah, make sure I say it right. Murloc. Sorry. Yeah, Murloc in this, with the voice provided by Christopher Lloyd, playing Murloc, and similar to Jafar, it's a situation where the lamp gets placed into the wrong hands, some bad things are going to happen. And Murloc is this sorcerer, and he can transform into various. He transforms into various animals. He transforms a bird, rat, cockroach, a bear at one point, and he has this talisman. When he puts his talisman on top of the lamp, he gets unlimited wishes. But you think, ooh, that sounds like a good thing. Well, this is an evil man with evil plot. So, with that being said, you can guess what happens eventually. It does happen, but, Scrooge McDuck finds a way to destroy the talisman, defeat Murloc, and of course the genie lets you in on a little something that he has a wish that would basically take him out of the whole thing of being a genie. So it's a very much it was a precursor to what Aladdin would be. So the only thing was Jafar didn't have unlimited wishes. But it was still, when Jafar got his hands on the lamp, bad things were going to happen. But yeah, and it was, yeah. That being said, so, bad things happen, and so, but in this was very much a very similar story, but it was. The thing was, at the time, I'm sure Aladdin was probably in pre-production or production. Animated movies take a long time to make, so they probably did steal a little bit from Aladdin. Of course, Aladdin based on a legendary tale, so it probably, they probably did take a little bit, inspired by, but they had to make several changes. So obviously, being DuckTales, you had to have some familiarity with the TV show. Everything takes place in Duckburg. You have to have the money bin. You have to have, and of course, what's one of the worst things to ever happen to Scrooge McDuck is that he loses his money. He loses his money and loses his money bin. So, you saw that happen. So, that being said, that is DuckTales: Treasure of the Lost Lamp. We will have another film coming up, but first of all, we need to take a look at our tree here. We've got some more work to do because there are several ornaments here. Here, let's take the camera off the tripod here. Yeah, we've got several ornaments here, but we still got some stuff we can put on the bottom, and we still got a lot of stuff that needs to go on. So I probably overdid it with ornaments, but I think we can get them all on here. So this is what we got so far. So there we go. I'll give another shot of it before we go any further. So let's go on to our next feature. So I figured I'd just close this video with two movies that I watched on Thanksgiving Day, and to kind of talk about them. One, I'm gonna let you watch. The other one, if you missed out, I'm sure you can fire up a streaming service and watch it. But even this one, the first one we're going to talk about is from 1948, and it's a John Ford classic. Of course, I brought this along, figured my dad would want to watch it because, after you have dinner and all that, you just kind of wait and not much to do, or just, some of you may get ready for Christmas, you may just play games or whatever it may be, to celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. So me and old Dad decided to pop in a DVD, and it is from 1948. It is John Ford's Fort Apache. So, yeah, from 1948. And we'll go into some of the specifics on this. It also has Henry Fonda, Shirley Temple, Pedro Armides, and so, yeah, I hate foreign names. I do. I really do. But not that there's anything wrong with the people, but it's pronouncing their names. So let's take a look at Fort Apache from 1948. Fire Up Max. It is surely available on that or Amazon Prime. But yeah. Okay. So, Fort Apache. This is definitely, it's one of John Ford's, his cavalry trilogy. It was Fort Apache, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and Rio Grande. And so, in here we have John Wayne playing the lead of Captain Kirby York, I'm sorry. And that there's this conflict going on between a local Native American tribe and these soldiers. Now, this, first and foremost, this movie is not politically correct. You know, the natives are kind of treated quite hostile in this film. Even though they do kind of want, some of them do want peace, but there's also a lot of, you know, they're there to make war. They set up traps for the troops, and so definitely the overall plot of this movie, it would not be politically correct. Matter of fact, they're going as far as, in terms of modern day exhibition of films, they're putting trigger warnings on top of these movies, and so you're hearing the trigger warning from me. So maybe after you've seen the film, but yeah, this was all about the frontier, the Wild West. You know, and just recently Kevin Costner had his film Horizon, and he portrayed hostility between white people and the natives, as well as within our own groups of people. Is that, you know, there's good and bad in everybody. But Fort Apache tried to do that, but also at the same token, you do have the majority of those people who are setting up traps to catch the white man. So I do understand that this may be a troublesome movie to some, but I've never been on the path of political correctness. But you know, but do be advised, you know, because it is what it is. This was 1948, and yeah. But some of the other cast, we have Henry Fonda as Lieutenant Colonel Owen Thursday, his daughter played by Shirley Temple. That would be her. She plays the character of Philadelphia Thursday, and along with her first husband is in this film. As a matter of fact, she was, I'm trying to look and see. Okay, so she was right at 20 years old when the film was released, and matter of fact, she was married. She was married to her first husband and expecting her first child while shooting Fort Apache. As a matter of fact, most of her scenes are at the first half of the movie. Through the second half, you don't see her a whole lot. And she had some concern. I read some trivia that she had some concerns when riding on horseback, you know, not to lead to miscarriage. Her first husband, like I said, her first husband is in this film, John Agar, of course, the father of the child. Yeah, he's in the movie, playing a very key character who works with John Wayne and helped to bring victory. And yeah, it's, in terms of westerns, I can see it's a classic, but you know, it's, you know, those movies, you can't judge those movies by today's standards, and that's where you get the trigger warnings and stuff like that. You do have to look at them in the context of when they were made. And of course, the story that it tells is very much of the wild frontier during the Civil War. And so, yeah, it's difficult to tell a story of that type by today's standards. And I don't know if you could look at. I watched a podcast one time. Actually, it was a YouTube video. These guys were doing it on. They were doing it on public access TV in New York City, and but they were uploading their episodes to YouTube, and this was in the early days of YouTube, like mid to late 2000s, and so they had a whole discussion on westerns. They did like a two-part episode. One was the spaghetti westerns, and the other was the American westerns, and so. But they selected a few, and one of the films that got brought up was John Ford's The Searchers, which is also very notorious for its depiction of the natives as well, and often gets flagged probably more than Fort Apache does. And so they had this discussion about John Ford, but and they were talking about how sometimes Ford can be so pro-patriotic that it's pro-patriotic of the time the films that were made. And so yeah, so that's why I say you can't always judge the films by current status. You need to look at the context of what was going on back in the 1940s, especially with Fort Apache. And don't feel guilt about it. That's a key thing. Do not feel guilt. You are living in the present. You are not those people. Okay? It's was it wrong back then? Absolutely. But you did not commit those crimes. They committed those crimes back then. Not you. So, Fort Apache, where does it rank? It's, for its time, it's a quite adventurous, good story film. Is it one of my favorite John Ford films? Not exactly. It's kind of in the middle. It still is a very entertaining film. It was originally released by RKO, independently produced by Argosy Pictures, but it was distributed by RKO. But yeah, I would say check it out, just for the sheer, I think it needs to be looked at, definitely as a filmmaking lens, because this was one of the first films where John Ford used Monument Valley and that whole piece of property. And so, and there's a matter of fact on this DVD there's a whole segment about Monument Valley. It's called Monument Valley, John Ford Country. So it runs about 10-15 minutes, just a short little piece on that. So, we have one more movie we want to talk about. Now, this one was a film that aired on television. ABC aired it. And it is none other than Mary Poppins! Yes, Mary Poppins aired Thursday night on ABC, but we kind of wondered what would prompt Mary Poppins to be aired on network television late on a Thursday night. Of course, everybody's wanting to watch. Someone sent me a Facebook message, what would prompt Disney and ABC to air Mary Poppins on Thanksgiving night? Well, competing against football, they didn't have much for programming, so that they thought, we'll show a classic movie. Well, it was a big event for Mary Poppins this past weekend on Thursday night. Is the film turns 60 years old this year. So now this is the 50th anniversary Blu-ray. I do not know if Disney has plans to partner with Sony to put out an Ultra 4K HD. I don't see why not. But this is definitely a movie where you watch it and 1964, how they achieved how that film looked is just amazing. How they did all those effects, and what's interesting is that the animatronic effects that were provided in the film were done by a man by the name of Robert Matty. Robert Matty would get so much crap for his work on Jaws. Yes. Yes, he did the shark for Jaws. And Spielberg really badmouthed Bob Matty big time over the creation of the shark in Jaws. Matter of fact, named the shark Bruce after his lawyer. But where you see Bob Matty's craft is in Mary Poppins. The special effects that he was able to create, from the talking umbrella to the birds in the trees, the carousel that leaves the carousel and actually goes through the land, and of course when the children and Dick Van Dyke and Ed Wynn are kind of floating in the house, singing "How I Love to Laugh," and of course the mixture of what it took to pull off the mixture of the live action and the animation and how they interact with each other was almost seamless. Again, this was all optical printing. There was no digital. Then you look at something like the sequel that came out just a few years ago, directed by Rob Marshall, with Emily Blunt playing Mary Poppins, with Mary Poppins Returns. How everything was kind of blended in, completely seamless, and that was all done digitally. While the original Mary Poppins, they had to shoot different elements on film in front of nothing. Matter of fact, there was no blue screen. Walt Disney Productions did not use blue screen until like the 1980s, because the process that Walt Disney Productions developed was called the sodium vapor screen process, which was very similar to blue screen or green screen. I'm trying to explain it to you because it used sodium vapor. As a matter of fact, I think the screen that was behind the actors was green. It had to be green. But if you were to see the negative footage, in which they've included on some of these Blu-rays, to Mary Poppins, Pete's Dragon is another film where where they did the same exact effect. So if you watch Mary Poppins, Pete's Dragon, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, like several of those films where live action and animation were combined, they used the sodium vapor screen process. When you look at if they ever have the raw footage or the raw film footage of the live action elements, you see the actors, but what looks like in the background is brown. It was not brown. It was actually green, but they had to light it in such a way where they put the animation in the background, and then using color correction they would fix the actors' faces and bring it up to looking normal. And so when you watch Mary Poppins and how those sequences are in the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious sequence, or the penguins with Dick Van Dyke and how he's dancing really silly. He pulls his pants down to look like which kind of shapes him like a penguin a little bit, and how he does this this funny little dance with the animated penguins. You just go, that's amazing. And just when you think it couldn't top itself, then you go into the Step in Time sequence with all the chimney sweeps, and like, holy cow, because that's an incredible stunt sequence. That scene is really a pinnacle of all the effects that they had at the time. There's animation effects with the fireworks. There's the matte paintings, the special effects of walking on something, walking on clouds or whatever, and then there's the whole all the stunt and dance work that's in that sequence. It's just amazing, that even in the old analog optical days, it rivals what comes out today with all the digital stuff. It just amazes me. That's why I think with Mary Poppins Returns, that the much later sequel that came out just a few years ago, it's nice in thought, but it's pretty much a forgettable movie. I mean, literally. I mean, you just know that, okay, it has Emily Blunt taking over from Julie Andrews, playing Mary Poppins. It has what's his name from Hamilton? Hold on, I'll look up his name here real quick. Lin-Manuel Miranda, yes. So you have him, and of course a cameo by Dick Van Dyke playing. It's playing Mr. Dawes Jr. In which Dick Van Dyke plays two characters in the original Mary Poppins. He plays Mr. Dawes Sr., and he plays, of course, Bert. The wacky and crazy Bert. Of course, classic movie. It was Walt Disney's crowning achievement back in 1964. It won several Academy Awards. Let me see if I can find out what it. I know it. Okay, what we got here? It won 5 Oscars. Nice. Okay, so what we have here is Oscar Best Actress in a Leading Role for Julie Andrews. It won Best Film Editing, Cotton Warburton. Best Visual and Special Effects by Peter Ellenshaw, Hamilton Lusk, Eustace Lycett. Won Best Original Song for Chim Chim Cheree. Won the Best Music by Robert and Richard Sherman. So, yeah, that's just the Academy Awards. And, of course, it had 23 wins, 17 nominations for other awards and so forth. But, yeah, Mary Poppins. Didn't expect to watch Mary Poppins. And my dad literally hates Mary Poppins. He literally hates because of the fact that it's just a musical. But I look at it and how impressive the movie is. It's an entertaining movie. It has, yes, it has all the special effects, but the special effects are not the heart of the story. The heart of the story is a father and his children. That's the whole heart of the story. And I would encourage you, if you like Mary Poppins, do check out the film. I forget when it came out, but it had Tom Hanks and Emma Thompson, directed by John Lee Hancock, a film called Saving Mr. Banks, which told the story about what inspired Mary Poppins to be written as a book. It also was the behind the scenes telling of when Walt Disney adapted Mary Poppins to the screen, and the turbulent emotions that P.L. Travers had towards Walt Disney. They did not have a good relationship. And yeah, and it's just I of course talked about Saving Mr. Banks before, but I was glad Disney actually made that movie. And it was originally made as just an independent production that they were just gonna hand off to another distributor, but they thought, this is the story of Walt Disney. Maybe we better get the company involved in telling the story, make sure it's accurate, and that Walt Disney is not painted in a negative light. The only thing that they really showed was negative of Walt Disney is that he smoked. But yeah, Mary Poppins. So, do check out these movies. I'm glad that you stuck around for the video. So, I think that'll do it for this weekend. Next weekend, I think, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm debating whether I should start Christmas I think I probably should. It's it's the month of December officially. It is the recording of this video. It is December 1st. So, from me to you, see you later.